Hi, everyone. We're the Hawks, and we research the baby formula shortage for our operations management project. My name is Mackenzie Mackey, and I'm a junior majoring in marketing.
I'm Catherine Chapman. I'm a senior majoring in management.
I'm Liz McGarvey. I'm a junior and I'm majoring in marketing management.
I'm Austin Spooner, and I am a junior majoring in marketing.
My name's Maddie Vestweber, and I'm a senior majoring in marketing and finance. All right, to start off, we're going to just talk about a little bit of the timeline of the baby formula shortage. So this is a timeline overview of the baby formula shortage. In February of 2022, the country's biggest infant formula maker, Abbott, recalled multiple products and shut down one of its facilities in Michigan after bacteria was found at the site. In May, more than 40% of the US baby formula supplies were out of stock. And then in June, the same Abbott plant was shut down again, but this time because of severe storms and flooding throughout the state. The amount of baby formula on the store shelves fell to a low point of 22.4% of products out of stock. The Abbott plant reopened and resumed production on July 1st, but it's still a crisis that will take a while to fix. And then next, I'm going to talk a little bit more just about some background. So for this project, I do think it's really important to point out that 43% of formula products are out of stock nationwide, and it hits pretty close to home because in the Midwest, many states like South Dakota, North Dakota, Iowa, and Wisconsin, out of stock rates are more than 50%. And I'm going to pass it off to Kenzie, and she's going to talk a little bit more about the background.
Throughout the crisis, parents have been scrambling to find ways to feed their children. Most of them started with searching for formula online since their local store shelves were empty. Unfortunately, a majority of them were scammed from fraudulent websites after never receiving their order. Throughout this time, several homemade formula recipes circulated social media sites. Although this was not recommended to try, parents ultimately had no choice but to try different formulas without knowing how their child would react. The formula shortage is a consequence of a much larger collection of systematic flaws in the US food production and distribution system, and is a critical issue to solve because food and nutrition are life-sustaining. I'm now going to pass it on to Liz to talk more about linking the formula shortage to our course content.
So I'm going to be linking our formula shortage to course content, which is answering question 2. And so the element of a capacity constrained process and operations management heavily relates to baby formula shortage in America. This process was caused because the demand is greater than Abbott's production capacity. The FDA conducted research to see what the sequence of events went wrong in order for the shortage to be as prominent as it is now. Several key events have led to a very high demand for infant formula. Quote, a number of reasons were listed, including outdated data systems, insufficient emergency response systems capable of managing multiple public health emergencies, and a lack of consumer education on how to handle and prepare infant formula. The agency also acknowledged that there are many unknowns about the bacterial contaminant of the Coronavector, which was reportedly found in the baby formulas products from Abbott Nutrition, end quote. This is what led to a capacity constraint process that we've discovered in this course. Since Abbott had to close its stores, which meant a halt in the production, the shortage of formula led to a large demand of the product because people were running out of their formula for their children, and they had a lack of knowledge of how to prepare the baby formula. This suggests that there was more demand for the project than there was for production, which is also a capacity constrained process. And now I'll be talking about safety stock. Safety stock is a stock that is needed when demand is unclear or unpredictable. This is also referred to as safety inventory. This element of operations management is used when demand is not known and is uncertain. Safety stock was not set into place before this shortage, and this is what also led to the massive outage of formula available for purchase in the United States. These are very crucial to have to set in place to avoid the shortages for consumers that are in need of these products. A stock of good and quality products should be implemented going forward because it will minimize the severity of stockouts going forward in companies and businesses across America. This is a very important thing for companies to implement in their systems. And now I will be passing it off to Catherine.
So continuing on the course concepts and referring back to the last slide that talked about Abbott closing its doors, the recall issued by Abbott was also a prime example of a failure in quality, which is a concept discussed in Chapter 11. When a failure in quality is detected, it, quote, creates additional costs as the failure is corrected or remediated. So after Abbott issued this recall, the baby formula industry as a whole was unable to bounce back and correct the failure. And given that the market is so concentrated, even a singular company closing its doors had the ability to paralyze the entire market, boosting demand, but still having limited supply. And this failure in quality has had long-lasting effects that are still very much relevant today, but Abbott isn't necessarily the only one to blame. So the term lean operations was coined by the management scholar James Womack, and it's a term discussed in Chapter 8. The term lean reflects an operations goal to eliminate waste. And baby formula manufacturers have emphasized the role of making their supply chains as lean and efficient as possible. This means that they aim to minimize the amount of time baby formula is spent sitting unprofitably on warehouse shelves. And so they send the goods from the factory to the retailer as quickly as possible. The problem is that when there's a surge in demand or a drop in supply, in this case, shortages can result. So the leaner the supply chain, the larger potential for disruption. And this drawback of lean operations is kind of what ultimately led to the baby formula industry's downfall. And the government's Women, Infants, and Children, or WIC program that funds the formula industry, also encourages a lean supply chain because it reimburses just 15% of the wholesale price. So the huge volume means that companies can still be profitable, but the lower margins per sale encourage them, again, to keep a very efficient supply chain. And overall, this overarching standard of remaining highly efficient while avoiding like any disruptions places a lot of responsibility and trust in companies. And at some point, the disruption in production was bound to happen.
Okay, so the suppliers dominating the formula industry also lack in the procurement metric associated with supply chain. Specifically, the third question on this slide, is the supplier responsive enough to adjust production volumes as need? As mentioned on the last slides, the shortage initially started with a voluntary recall by Abbott. The error created by the company affected the ability of the formula market to adjust the production volumes as needed to match the spike in demand. This led companies to restrict the amount of formula a consumer may purchase, therefore lacking responsiveness.